What I wish I would have known is that there are so many places that you can't fly a drone. You know, I always thought that when you get a drone, you can just fly it wherever you want it, and you just needed to be courteous about it. You know, just don't make anybody angry. But the fact is there are so many rules and regulations about flying unmanned aircraft systems, or they call them UASs, and that's what the Mavic Pro is. You know, that kind of prevented me from doing a lot of things because I was kind of scared to fly my Mavic for a while because I didn't know if I could fly there. Now, there's a mobile app out there. It's called Before You Fly. Many of you probably have heard of it, or most of you probably have it if you already have a drone. But it's a real-time based app, so you can see if there's any special restrictions or requirements about where you're going to fly, because it's good to have that information.
In US and in Canada, you cannot fly a drone or a quadcopter, whatever you want to call them. You cannot fly them in a state park, you know, or any national park.
What I wish I would have known before I bought my Mavic. Well, I wish I would have known that Mavic DJI is more compatible with Apple products and not so much with Android. I bought my new Huawei P9 Android in January. I wanted to use it with my Mavic, but I was facing so many problems. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. So I ended up last week buying a new iPad Mini 4 and just went out flying yesterday for my first time, and it was great.
There's many things I wish I knew before I bought the drone. But the main one was the reason how I justified spending $1,000 on a drone. I bought it thinking, you know, I can use it to make some money. I can do some real estate videos, and I have several friends that are realtors. Not knowing, no, you can't. Not until you're licensed for it anyway. The Part 107 licensing from the FAA is required before you can make a dime with your drone.
For me, the one thing I wish I knew going into owning a drone for the first time was that it doesn't record sound, and I had to come up with my own solutions for adding voice to my videos.
The next thing I want to talk about that I wished I knew before buying this drone is that the footage won't be pretty out of the box. You might need to tweak some with the settings. Probably you need to tweak some settings, but not only that, you're going to need to get a good editing software. I have Final Cut, which I'm editing this also, but also iMovie. If you have a Mac, also iMovie is fine. You can still color correct and color grade a bit, not really, just a bit, fix the saturation. But with Final Cut you can do much more. You can fix the exposure, and you have the video scopes. So Final Cut is great for editing drone videos. You can also use, I'm not sure, but I think you can also use Adobe Premiere, which is quite good. But the footage won't be pretty out of the box. Our first couple of videos I shot weren't very pretty. The next thing that I wished I knew before buying my Mavic was something that I really wasn't ready for, and I really did wish I knew, is that people interrupt you. Not many YouTubers talk about this thing, but people can interrupt you when you're flying the drone. For instance, a couple of days ago I was flying my drone in the park, which I have a video, which I'm going to suggest right here. That day, so someone came to me and just started talking to me about my drone. And it sometimes interrupts it, because if you want to get a specific shot, then he will interrupt you in the middle, and that's not always very nice, and I don't like that. So sometimes it's fine, just people coming and being interested in something you have, and they're interested in the same things you are interested in. Sometimes it's just plain old annoying that you're trying to get a shot and someone's interrupting you in the middle, so just get ready for that. The last thing I wished I knew is that practice makes perfect. You can't be the perfect drone flyer in the beginning. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You're gonna get better.
As a new drone flyer, what I wish I'd known, or even as a new drone owner, what I wish I'd known before I had to suffer the consequences myself are, what do you do when you experience a problem with your drone? Where do you go to find your solutions? How do you figure out what is the best way, or the best resolution to whatever problem you're having with your drone? In my case, I found a couple of places online, so there are obviously a number of DJI forums and drone forums where you can ask questions and see what kind of issues other drone owners are experiencing. And there's also obviously the formal DJI forums where you can go for support.
My main tip for new drone beginners, which I wish I knew when I was starting out with this drone, is in regard to filming and not actually flying. What you need to know is go slow. When you're getting those shots in the air, there were too many times I was doing them and I was thinking, wow, this is going well. When I was getting the shots back to edit on my laptop, then realising it was way too speedy. The footage was too fast, it was too quick, and when that happens, you don't get blown away by the images you're capturing.
My first drone was the Phantom 3 Pro. I wanted to go fly, so I checked the batteries. I was like, okay, they have 3 bars, that's good enough. I just want to like mess around, fly it up for a little while. I just see the drone slowly but surely crashing down to the ground, and I looked down and said the battery only was like completely dead. So one thing I wish I would have known is that if you're flying a Phantom 3 Pro, just make sure these things are fully charged before you take it up in the air, because I guess if they sit, I don't know, maybe mine are faulty, but I would just keep them all fully charged before I go fly. I know it's kind of obvious, but yeah, I thought it'd be fine. So
this little drone records in 4K, just like my GoPro that I've got as well. You've got to really understand that most modern computers, even if it's 2 or 3 years old now, if you've bought it off the shelf, or even if you've made it yourself and it's a couple of years old, chances are it won't be up to editing 4K.
I wish I'd known that my laptop wasn't capable of running 4K video at the time. So I started off shooting in 4K, because that's what everyone told you to do. However, when the SD card came back onto my machine, I noticed that the footage was very laggy, very stuttery. So when it runs, you can notice that the footage stops and starts. It's not very good. I've also got some footage which I ran on the same day in 2720 by 1530, so 2K, both at 24 frames per second. And you'll notice that the footage is much smoother, much better. So initially I was thinking that I damaged the Mavic Pro, whether the camera wasn't right or the gimbal wasn't configured correctly. So I wish I'd known that my trusty 2011 MacBook Pro does not run 4K footage.
I wish I did not have to learn the hard way, or that someone would have warned me, I guess, how much potential there is for things to go wrong flying underneath a bridge. I found out the hard way that the concrete, specifically the rebar inside of concrete, can cause the radio signal for the drone to get interrupted. I was flying underneath a bridge here near where I live in Louisiana. There was a walking path right next to the bridge, and so I was maintaining line of sight, thought I was doing everything right. I was going to fly in between these pillars supporting the bridge, or overpass technically.
Stay away from metal structures. I see all kinds of posts on the Mavic forums about people losing their drone. The Mavic all of a sudden just disappears or falls out of the sky. I suspect that some of that has to do with flying around metal structures, cell towers, radio towers, anything made out of metal, or even just skyscrapers, anything like that. They do let off their own magnetic field, and if you're not careful, you'll end up like me, having to send my drone to DJI.
I wish I would have knew when I bought my first drone, which was the standard. We went to a trip to Pennsylvania, and I lost my drone. I hit return to home. It said landing. Somehow I got disconnected. I wish I would have knew about the little map in the corner and the flight log that would have led me to my drone. I left my drone somewhere back in the mountain. But luckily, out of all those trees and mountains and hills and whatever, it landed right in the middle of the road. Someone found it, seen my information, and called me. So that's something else you should do. Put your information on your drone in case you do lose it.
I could go back in time and explain one thing to myself as a new drone flyer. It would have to do with drone or the camera movement. I've really started to learn that, for my taste at least, less is most certainly more. So lower that expo sensitivity curve, lower the gimbal speed, and don't go flying around super fast just because you can. Well, certainly you can and should fly around buzzing all the things, but don't expect great footage out of it is all.
One of the things that I wish I'd known before getting the DJI product was that the DJI repair service is quite bad. Well, they're very polite, but nothing really happens when you send it in. A simple repair. Of the more normal things I wish I'd knew was that it's very important to get a case for your Mavic, and any case is better than none. And then finally the batteries. Get extra batteries.
Propellers. Buy a lot of them. If you find some, buy extra pairs because you're going to need it. You're going to crash, and it will happen. You might say it never happens, but it will. All drone pilots crash. I bought a whole bunch of extra propellers since my first crash. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 extra pairs of propellers. I crashed my drone already 4 times.
Knowing exactly which accessories I truly needed instead of buying the accessories I thought I needed, because those that I thought I need, those aren't even something that I use. I use the other things more than this, and I could have saved some money and put that towards the Mavic accessories.
Make sure you know how to do an emergency cutoff on a Mavic. That's just where you go, you take the controller right here, and then you just go like that to cut it off. And that's just helpful in case there's an emergency or anything, you know what to do. And then that said, read the rest of the manual, know what the different flight modes do, know how to control your drone properly. And like, once you get it, I know you're very excited to go fly it, but take the time to read the manual, get to know your drone, learn how to fly it, know what you need to do.
What would I wish someone told me before I became a drone owner, is that I wish somebody told me that I would have been traveling so much to make those films, because I would have bought it a lot sooner. That's my tip to you guys.
I was a gamer. I thought I knew everything. There's just some things, though, they don't tell you in drone school, which I never took, by the way. That probably actually would have helped. So I wish I would have known that I needed to go to drone school. I mean, nobody even told me that I needed a GPA of 3.14159265. Pi is just a stupid number. What does that have anything to do with flying a drone? I guess it's irrelevant, though.